In this video, I'm going to be giving you one player from each Championship club who I'm personally really looking forward to watching in the Championship next season. We have some unbelievable talents in the Championship next season, which I'm personally really looking forward to seeing how they get on this season. Now, it's not necessarily the team's best player or anything like that. It's a player that me personally, I'm excited to be watching throughout this season in the Championship, and I'll be keeping an eye on them individually. If you're a Championship fan, then do drop a like on this video and do subscribe to the channel as well. We do daily Championship content, so if you're a fan of the Championship content, please do hit that subscribe button. This is the place to be for daily Championship content, so do hit that subscribe button and we'll jump straight into the video. So what better way is there to start off than with Birmingham City? And honestly, I could name a lot of players that I'm really excited to see in Birmingham City this season. They've got so many players, like, for example, Christoph Klar, I really want to see and really looking forward to seeing how he gets on in the Championship. As I say, he's not going to be my number one choice. But as I say, Birmingham have got a lot of choices that I really am looking forward to seeing how they get on, like Damari Gray in the Championship again. I'm honestly so buzzing to see how he gets on in the Championship because it's been a long time since he's been playing Championship football. Obviously played a lot in the Premier League, played, almost 200 games in the Prem or something. And as well as that, also had some big transfer fees on him as well, and just big talk about him as well. And scored a few really nice goals in the Premier League as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets in the Championship. But for me, I'm actually going to go for Kyogo. He was the kind of guy, when I first saw Birmingham were kind of making the business, I saw Kyogo and thought, this is where I think these guys are really making statement signings this summer. And they've gone on to make multiple statement signings. But Kyogo, you know, he's got that record in Scotland, which is an absolute joke. You take a look at him a few years back for Celtic, 35 goals in 52 games is no joke. Celtic fans did kind of say he fell off towards the back end of his career. He still wasn't doing bad at Celtic. His numbers weren't bad, don't get me wrong. Obviously went to Rennes, didn't work out at all in that second half of the season when he went to them. And now coming into English football, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets on. And hopefully he can kind of bring back that form that he had at Celtic a few years ago and bring that to Birmingham City. He is 30 years old now. He's a very experienced player at this point. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets on personally. And I think in that striker role for Birmingham, he can do very well. But as I say, there's a lot of players in that Birmingham City team, which I'm personally really looking forward. Just Birmingham as a team in general, I'll be so interested to see how they set up and play and perform in the Championship. Now, Blackburn Rovers, they have if you look at their transfers, they've lost a few key players and a few players that have been around for a few years, which is a shame. I would have easily said Tyrese Dolan if he was still at Blackburn, for a player that I'd be really excited to watch personally. As I said, this is my personal opinion as well. Like, these are players that I'm personally looking forward to watching. And I think for Blackburn, as I say, I don't think I'm spoiled for choice in terms of options, but I'm actually going to go for Todd Cantwell. Now, in the last few games of the season, he was showing his best form like he did at the start of the season for Blackburn. When Blackburn were performing really well under John Eustace, Todd Cantwell was a key part to that. And in the last few games when Blackburn started to get a few results, again, Todd Cantwell was a key player in that kind of form. And if the good things happen to Blackburn, I do think if Todd Cantwell's on the field, he's going to be a key part in that. He's such a good player on the ball. We've seen his technical quality. There's a reason why he had links to Liverpool when he broke through at Norwich. We genuinely thought this guy was going to be a top Premier League talent when he burst onto the scene. Numerous different issues. I think a lot of it is kind of his attitude problems that he's had in the past, or what's been reported as attitude problems at the back end of his spell at Norwich, and Rangers had the same thing as well. Hopefully, Valérien Ismaël can get the best out of Todd Cantwell. And as I say, that we know there's a serious player in Todd Cantwell, and it's just a case, can Valérien Ismaël and Blackburn get the best out of that for Todd Cantwell? So hopefully he can kind of hit the heights that we hope and we know he can hit at Championship level. Bristol City is an interesting one, and I still think for me the most exciting player that I'm going to watch, he is their best player as well. It is Jason Knight. We saw how good he was last season for Bristol City. Really did come into his own and was a leader in that team for Bristol City and was their key player in my opinion. So good at everything. He's so good on the ball, so good off the ball, and everything goes through him for Bristol City. And again, I'm surprised that he didn't have more Premier League interest. I think I've seen Everton links over the summer, but it looks to me that he's probably going to stay at Bristol City, which is so good for Bristol City. I mean, I don't know if they're going to have quite as good a season as last season in terms of getting into the playoffs, but I still think they'll have a decent season. And as I say, with a midfielder like Jason Knight in the middle of the park who can literally do it all, they'll be absolutely fine this season. Bristol City will. And as I say, he's had two really good seasons actually, but especially this last season, I think he really has come into his own as one of the best midfielders in the whole of the Championship. And genuinely, you could have made a case for Jason Knight to get in Championship team this season. I was quite vocal on it over on the TikTok. Right, Charlton Athletic. There's a few players that I actually am really looking forward to seeing at Charlton. I think their transfer business has actually been really underrated. And in terms of, everyone talking about Birmingham and Wrexham, and rightfully so, with the kind of moves they're making. But I think Charlton have really gone under the radar with the business that they've made so far. And for me, the player I'm most excited to watching is Charlie Kelman. Obviously, me being a QPR fan, I'm going to have a closer eye on Charlie Kelman as well. But I really enjoyed watching him in League One for Leyton Orient. And I know it's a big fee that Charlton have paid for him. It's rising to potentially £5 million this transfer from QPR, which, as a QPR fan's perspective, I think we've got a great fee for Charlie Kelman there. He's 23 years old, but realistically, he didn't want to be at QPR. And we're getting and he has 1 year left in his contract, and we're getting £3.5 million up front, potentially rising to £5 million for a player that doesn't want to be here. And the fact is that he's never scored a goal at Championship level. He played 25 games or something for QPR, and whenever he played for us was diabolical, I'll be real. But we saw how good it was at Leyton Orient. But then you look, he's had one good season in League One overall in his career, you'd say. And, QPR have got a fee that could rise to £5 million. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad sign for Charlton or anything like that. I'm saying from a QPR perspective, and that's a fantastic piece of business in terms of the transfer fee we've got. And I'd say one good season in League One, and I do think he'll do well in the Championship. I think he'll chip in with goals. Do I think he'll be able to get 23 goals like he did in League One? No. But do I think he'll be able to get double-figure goals? I think there's a strong possibility, in my opinion. He knows where the back of the net is. He's a clinical finisher, and he's just a very good number 9 in general. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on at Charlton. As I say, didn't work out at QPR. I think at Charlton he could chip in with a few goals, and no doubt he'll probably score against QPR and celebrate in all of our faces. But I think that's a really good signing for Charlton. But as I say, the price I do think is a little bit on the expensive side. But if he keeps them up, it doesn't matter, does it? If he chips in with goals that keeps Charlton up, I think they'll be happy paying that £3 million fee. Coventry City, I think there's some players I am very interested to see and watching. And can I not see him, or am I just blind? Because one player that I really... Oh, there he is there. I'm thinking about Kesler Hayden, because I am looking forward to seeing him, how he gets on at Coventry. I don't think Van Ivak will end up staying at Coventry, right? There's a few other players I'm looking at. I think for me, the player I'm most looking forward to watching is actually Kesler Hayden. I think he was fantastic last season at Preston. He was one of the best right backs in the league. And Coventry have got a really good fee for him. I think they only spent I think it was maybe £3 million. I might be wrong. It was somewhere around there anyway. I think they got him for a really good fee. And after the season that they had at Preston, he's going into now a much stronger team in Coventry City, which will be up there come the end of the season, in my opinion, in the Championship. And I think it's a great move for him. I think it's a great move for Coventry City. And I think he's a player that could potentially, in the future, he's still 22 years old, can make that step up to the Premier League. So I think Ken Kesler Hayden, for me, is a player that I am really looking forward to seeing how he gets on with that move to Coventry City for him. Derby County next. Let's see who I'm looking forward to be watching in the Derby County side. And I think actually, just looking at it, that stands out to me straight away. Ebou Adams always, but we kind of know what we're going to get from Ebou Adams. In terms of, obviously, we don't really know what we're going to get, and it's a big transfer fee. It's got to be Patrick Adjumang. They spent, a fee rising to almost £7 million. It's a crazy amount of money, for Derby to be putting in for a player from the MLS who we don't know how he's going to get on in Championship football. A lot of MLS fans have laughed at this transfer, especially a lot of Americans or American national team fans, because they just watched him in the Gold Cup where he really did struggle there and was not good at all. But it's come out that he has been playing with an injury. He's been playing with a hernia injury. So we've got to take that into consideration when he has been playing them games for the United States. He's got a decent record at Charlotte FC, nothing too crazy, but a decent enough record. And Charlotte FC were happy to get that big fee for him. 24 years old, big physical presence, and seems to be a bit of a handful. Maybe his finishing is kind of that maybe needs a little bit more developing, but he's still, as I say, 24. He can still have time to develop at Derby County, and I think for me, I'm just very excited to see how he gets on, because it's such a big transfer fee for a club like Derby County, who obviously haven't spent much money in terms of transfer fees over the last few years for obvious reasons. I think it's interesting for Derby, and I think he's definitely, for me, the one that I'm most looking forward to seeing how he gets on in that Derby County side. Now, Hull City, I think it's got to be Bellumi. I think it's got to be Bellumi for Hull City, because we saw him play last season. Obviously, got injured, and he was so impressive over them first games. He played against QPR and was really, really good. And then he obviously got injured. He just hasn't played. Now, I don't really know what's going on with him. I've not heard about the guy in ages. I literally forgot he played for Hull, I'll be honest. And having a player like him, I was putting Hull towards relegation. But, if you've got a player of his kind of quality that he showed in them first 10 games, if he can get back to them levels like he was last season when he was fit, then absolutely Hull have got a serious player on their hands, and a player that's a real good player at Championship level from what I've seen in the 10 matches that I've watched of him so far. Ipswich Town is an interesting one. I think there's numerous for Ipswich in my opinion. You know, you've got these wingers that struggled in the Premier League, like a Jack Clark, Jadon Philogene, and Sammy Schmodix as well. But Sammy Schmodix he was alright in the Premier League, to be fair. He just got injured. Murray Hutchinson, he's probably going to be on his way. But if I had to go for one, I think I'll Benny as well. Some real good shouts for Ipswich. If I was to choose one, I think it's got to be Jack Clark back in the Championship. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets on in the Championship this season for Ipswich. Obviously, really struggled last season. Didn't get I don't think he got played in the right position. I think his minutes obviously were limited as well. And it's always difficult coming into a Premier League team from literally having minimal Premier League experience in the past for Jack Clark and making that step up into a new team from Sunderland, where he was such a key player and he was so highly thought of over there. It's always difficult stepping into a new team that's made a lot of transfers, and as well as that, the gap between the Championship and the Premier League. It's always difficult for a winger coming into a newly promoted side to really show his best form. And in the Championship, we know what Jack Clark's about, and hopefully he can get back to his Sunderland form that we saw in that last season for Sunderland before he moved on to Ipswich. Leicester City now, another relegated team, and there's a few again from Leicester. I feel like I am very much looking forward to seeing how they kind of progress this season. Now, I think if I had to name one, like Jeremy Munger, but I don't know is he going to get that much opportunity. I think he was going to get some chances, definitely. Will he be starting week in, week out when you've got the likes of Fatawu, Mavididi, you've got Will Hours is a very young player who's very exciting as well. But I do think, I am going to say Jeremy Munger. I think he's got such hype around him for a player that is so young. It's literally 16 years old, literally just turned 16 years old as well. So we saw him in the Premier League and he showed some really nice touches. And you think in the Championship, this really could be a breakout season for him. Maybe not like a season where he gets crazy loads of goal contributions, because the guy's 16, mate. But I do think he can step into that first team, and he's got pace, he's got trickery, he's got so much talent and so much potential. Hopefully we can see that this season. For me personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing Jeremy Munger this season, and hopefully he does get the minutes and get some minutes and really does impress in the minutes and gets a few contributions in the Championship. Middlesbrough now, where I think Middlesbrough had a shocking January transfer window, which, last season really did derail them in terms of them getting into the playoffs. Now, Hayden Hackney could potentially be on his way. I'm seeing Ipswich links with Hayden Hackney. I think for me, actually, I could say Tommy Conway or Morgan Whittaker, but I don't know what's going on with Whittaker. Like, no goals in his second half of the season for Middlesbrough was poor. Finnazaz as well. I think I'm going to go for Tommy Conway. Now, we saw what he can do last season. 13 Championship goals, was actually one of the highest top scorers because there wasn't many out-and-out goal scorers in the Championship last season. 27 starts and 13 goals. I think if he gets a full season, stays fit and is starting week in, week out, I think you've got a player there that could hit a lot more than 13 goals, put it that way. And I think he could really be one of the top scorers in the Championship this season. He's got some. I remember a goal he scored last season at Blackburn. Really nice goal that he scored. Real nice piece of trickery. He's got that about him, and he's also a bit of a shithouse as well. Like, I do love Tommy Conway because he is just a shithouse. He's a wind-up merchant. You see what he did at Bristol City when he went back to them and scored. Obviously, didn't work out in the end, but he's done that. He's got a trickery in up his sleeve, and he's got a goal in him as well. And Tommy Conway has potential. I'm putting my stocks in Tommy Conway. I think he's going to have a better season than last season. I think he'll be able to get close to 20 goals next season. That's my bold shout for Tommy Conway. Millwall, sorry. Don't want to say Ipswich. Millwall, they have a really good backline. I've not named any defenders because is anybody really that excited to watch defenders? Maybe. But, I mean, you could argue Tanganga if he stays, but I don't know if he'll even stay. But for me, it's Ivanovic. It's straight up Ivanovic. We saw at the back end of the season, second half of the season, where Ivanovic was really impressive. 20 years old. Like, he's still so young. And he's a player that's got real potential, and we saw glimpses last season. We saw it in patches where this guy could be a real top Championship talent, and he could be, again, I'm investing my stocks in a player like Ivanovic at 20 years old. I think he's got a lot of potential to really kick on this season after his debut season. 13 goals is a very respectable tally, 12 in all comps, and only started 23 matches as well. I think invest your stocks in Ivanovic, and I think he's going to be a real handful this season for Championship defences, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he gets on this season. Norwich City halfway through now. Norwich are always interesting with their transfers that they made. They're an interesting side, Norwich. Obviously, they've lost Borges Sainz, and as well as that, they also they look to be losing Josh Sargent, but he actually rejected the team that he signed for. It was some team in Germany, I can't remember exactly, but he rejected them. But I'm going to go for the new signing because they spent a decent fee on him. Matthias Kvistgaarden did very well over at Bromby, where he scored quite a lot of goals, especially last season. 17 goals in the league, 5 assists, 29 games. And, I mean, he was going to be the Josh Sargent replacement, right? But obviously Sargent is still there right now. 23 years old, this guy could score a few goals in the Championship. Obviously, I don't know much about him, but I'm seeing the fee, I'm seeing the numbers that he's put up. And I'm personally, obviously it's a new sign, you're always going to get excited about new signings. I'm personally looking forward to seeing how he gets on. I'm sure Norwich City always find these gems. They always find them. They've got Sargent, who has done well over the last few seasons. Borja Sainz, they picked up on a free. Norwich do just find these players. And Nunes, they've had players over the years, Norwich have, where they just pick them out. They just find them. And I think Kvistgaarden could be that next one for Norwich City. Oxford United now. Now, who am I really excited to see? It could be that new signing that they've made from, I think it's got to be De Kirchmeier. They spent a lot of money on him. I think it was like almost £4 million. Central midfielder. He was really good for his side last season over in the Eredivisie, where he actually captained his team. So this guy seems to be a bit of a leader. He's only 25 years old as well. Coming into Oxford, you'd imagine the fee that they're paying, he's going to be playing week in, week out. So I think this guy could definitely be one to watch this season. As I say, the numbers that he put up was pretty decent last season and seemed to be a bit of a leader for his side over in the Dutch league. And hopefully for him, and hopefully for Oxford, he can take that over to them and again be a key player. So I do think him and you got Brannigan in there as well. You got a decent midfield there in Oxford. They've not got a bad squad at all. Where I think a lot of people will probably predict Oxford to go down, but I'm not so sure. I think they've got a good chance of staying up and being fine. Again, Portsmouth now, where there's a few. Josh Murphy was obviously very impressive last season. John Swift they brought in, but is he really that much to get excited about? I'm not so sure. If I'm looking at all this here, I think Colby Bishop, with a full season a full season hopefully coming up. Obviously last season he had that I think it was a heart condition or something, whatever it was, and I'm glad that he's back on the field after that, which is obviously not good for him having that, but buzzing to see him back on the field. 11 Championship goals last season. He's such a handful, such a big target man, and bullies defenders as well. Proper out-and-out number 9. I love an out-and-out number 9. We've named a few in this video. Colby Bishop's record as well for Portsmouth has been really impressive over the years, and as I say, coming back from injury, a serious injury like that, and then doing as well as he did. And Portsmouth, you saw the second he came back into the team was the start of the Portsmouth resurgence, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on with a kind of full season in the Championship now next season, hopefully for him. Preston North End. I do think I've got one that's standing out to me straight away. Let's just have a look and see if there's anybody else that I'm really thinking. Now, for me, I think Sherry Small's the one. I watched him in that pre-season friendly against Liverpool. It's only a pre-season friendly, but he's got trickery. He's got pace. He looks to get the fans off their seat, and he's a player that Preston, I think, needed in their side, needed a bit more pace. And he definitely has that in abundance, where he's still 20 years old, got a lot of potential. He needs to definitely work on his end product. That's something that Charlton, I feel like, last season, 2 goals, 3 assists, wasn't pulling up trees with in terms of his contribution, but in terms of how big of a handful he is and how difficult he is to play against, he definitely is very difficult to play against, and I think Championship defenders won't want to be coming up against a player like Thierry Small. But as I say, he's still 20 years old, he's got a lot to polish up in his game, but the potential is definitely there with him, and I think a player like that at Preston, they definitely needed in their side. QPR now, where it's an interesting one here, because I've got 2. Obviously, me being a QPR fan, I think a lot of people are going to point to, obviously, Poku, because a lot of talk was about him. Obviously, he had a lot of interest in him. He had, whatever the rumour was, like 40 different clubs after him at one point, and somehow he ended up at QPR out of the lot. Very interesting to see how Poku gets on, but I'm actually going to go for, if I can find him. I can't even find him. Am I being blind? Well, it's Karamoko Dembele. I don't know where the hell the guy is. But anyway, it's Karamoko Dembele, the one that I'm most looking forward to seeing. I literally must be blind. But Karamoko Dembele has performed really well in pre-season. He had an injury last season which kept him out for a bit. But at the start of the season when he first came into QPR was really, really impressive. And towards the back end of the season, he had a few good games in there as well. Definitely, physically, it's tough when he's only a small guy. He's like literally like 5'5" or something. He's literally tiny on the pitch, and he isn't exactly the biggest guy either in terms of like weight. if that makes any sense. But in terms of how like big of a guy he is, he's only small, he's only nimble, get pushed off the ball a little bit easy. But I've seen him in pre-season, and the guy's absolute quality. We saw obviously at Celtic, this guy had so much hype about him. He was literally meant to be the next big thing Karamoko Dembele was. It didn't work out, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets in the season at QPR. As I say, I've been really impressed with him at pre-season, and hopefully he can kind of take that pre-season form into the Championship. And I think, honestly, as technical players go and trickery, he's such a good player to watch. So hopefully we can kind of see the best out of Karamoko Dembele in the Championship. And I think everybody would love to see that, realistically. Sheffield United, easy one's Gus Harmer, because that's just a cop-out, realistically, isn't it, if he ends up staying. Ollie Arblaster's one that definitely I'm looking forward to seeing again. Obviously, he was so impressive and got injured. But there's also Louis Barry. And I'm thinking, I'm torn between Arblaster and Louis Barry, because Arblaster obviously got injured at the start of the season, was really impressive at the start of the season, and would love to see him get a full season under his belt in Championship football, which is definitely one to be excited about. But I'm going to go Louis Barry, because he obviously went out on loan to Hull and got injured literally straight away, so we didn't really see him at all. But look at the numbers he was putting up at Stockport. He was the best player in League One, in my opinion, in that first half of the season. And, up there with Richard Coney as well at the start of the season as well. But obviously didn't work out with the injury at Hull. Hopefully he can stay fit. I am going to go Louis Barry, but I'm starting to think now Ollie Arblaster maybe as well. But I think they're both very exciting and both really, really players to keep an eye on this season at Sheffield United. Now, Sheffield Wednesday, who's left? Who have we got that's left to choose? Because Callum Patterson's just gone as well, by the way. He's gone to MK Dons, which is mental. To drop down to League 2 is crazy. Who can you even name? Like, it's to the point where it's just like I don't even know who to even say. Is Charles staying? If Charles is staying at Sheffield Wednesday, I'm going to go for Charles. Now, let me know if he is staying or not, because I don't know what's going on there, because everybody's leaving. But 20 years old, played in the back end of the season, a very good goalkeeper, and he's going to, let's be real, right? Sheffield Wednesday are going to have a lot of shots taken at them this season. If they have no players on the pitch and they're playing their youth team, if he's in goal, he's one to watch, because he's going to be making saves left, right and centre due to the sheer amount of shots that are going to be going in his direction. I don't even know if he's going to be there next season. That's the same for pretty much every single Sheffield Wednesday player at this point. But I am going to go for Charles in goal. Southampton, now they have a few. Now, I'm actually going to go to a defender here, and I mean, Tyler Dibblin, if he's there, these two, if they're there, Fernandes and Tyler Dibblin are definitely the ones to watch, but I'm not going to cop out, and they might end up leaving. So I'm actually going to go Ronnie Edwards, because obviously I'm a QPR fan, which is going to definitely play a part in it, but he was so impressive for QPR last season. In the second half of the season, he was our best player, in my opinion. Such a good ball-playing defender, can carry the ball out of defence, strong physically as well, good in the air. He's got every single attribute to be a modern-day centre-back and to be, in my opinion, a future Premier League centre-back. Now, I think he moved to Southampton. Obviously, I think what I'm saying is the Premier League move wasn't the right move for him, but he needed that loan to QPR in the Championship, which I think has done his career a world of good. And now with Southampton getting relegated, I think he's going to be outstanding for Southampton this season. I think he's going to be one of the best centre-backs in the Championship, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he develops. And I think under Will Still as well, I think it's a match made in heaven between the manager and the player there. So I am going to go for the QPR loanee, Ronnie Edwards. Definitely keep an eye out for him in the Championship next season. Right, Stoke City. Who do we go for here? I always like watching Million Manhoef. I always think he's such a good player. Played against QPR last season. Was really impressive. But he had a spell at the start of the season where he was very good. Definitely fell off. And then he had a few games here and there. He shows in glimpses what he's about. And very exciting player to watch. Got good skill. And as I say, he's got a lot of trickery. And he's an entertaining player to watch. And I love to watch an entertaining player. So when I'm watching Stoke, I'm always looking out for Million Manhoef. And I'm just hoping he can kind of put up more consistent numbers. Now, as I say, his form was very patchy, I feel like, last season. And if you can get, as I say, he's still only, 23 years old. He's still got room to develop. And if this guy can get some consistency and get firing consistently, and Mark Robbins can get the best out of him, you've got a player there that can put up, I think, really good numbers in the Championship next season. As I say, it's a question mark of can he do it, but I like to believe. So I'm going to go for Million Manhoef of Stoke. Swansea City have a few, actually, that I am very intrigued to see how they get on this season. I think Vipotnik could be an interesting one, but we're not going to go for him. I am going to go for... He's injured, actually, right now. I didn't realise that. Inusa, because Swansea's paid a big fee to bring this guy in. And he looked... From the clips I've seen of him over over in that is the Swedish league, right? Over in the Swedish league, I believe that is. He looks to be very impressive, a very tricky player, and he's definitely one that I think can keep an eye on. Swansea are spending big money on him for a reason. So I'm going to go for Inusa, a winger, and as I say, looks to be pacey, trickery, and hope we can bring that end product and some excitement to Swansea City this season. So I am going to go for Inusa of Swansea City. So Watford now, where they actually have one that's standing out to me straight away at Watford. I think Watford has done some really underrated transfer business so far this window. But the player that I am going to go for is Iran Kunda. Now, this guy had so much hype behind him when he was like, this guy was ripping it up in the Australian league. I say ripping it. He was playing consistently and playing very well, and a lot of people were talking about him when he was like 15, 16 years old over in the A-League. And then he got the move to Bayern Munich for, I think, a few £1 million. Went out on loan. It's not really worked out since he's gone to Bayern Munich, but now Watford have signed him for a few £1 million, but where Bayern Munich do have a buyback clause, I believe. That's how much Bayern Munich obviously rate this guy. He's still only 19 years old. One to watch. And this guy's got a serious finish on him, by the way, as well. From when I've seen the clips of him over in the A-League. The guy looks like an absolute joke. Can he bring it over to the Championship? We'll wait and see. As I say, still 19 years old. Obviously a lot to develop still. But look at the numbers that he was putting up for Adelaide United before he left for Bayern Munich. Yeah, really good numbers. And in the Championship, you never know. Obviously, it's either hit or miss sometimes with these players. But this guy has the potential, in my opinion, to absolutely light it up. And Watford had a really good transfer window and could genuinely be dark horses this season. I don't think they'll get promoted or anything like that, but I think they might exceed expectations, Watford, this season. Now, West Brom. They've made a new signing recently of Hegabo, but Tom Fellows as well. West Brom have got a few decent ones. Isaac Price as well. You know what? I'm going to go for Isaac Price. I think he's another one that I'm investing in. This guy can do everything. He plays so many different roles. I think he even played fullback. I swear he played fullback for his old team as well. Maybe I might be wrong with that. But he's a player that can do a lot. I watched him a few times in the Championship last season. He really impressed me. He's been very impressive for his nation in Northern Ireland as well. And he's a player that I think's got some real potential. So 21 years old. And I think he's a player that could develop next season for West Brom into being a real key player for them under Ryan Mason. You know, I say, what position will he play? Will he play on the wing? Will he play in the number 10? Will he play a little bit deeper? He can literally do it all. And I don't know where Ryan Mason's planning on playing him, but I have no doubt he'll be in that starting 11. And I think he'll be really impressive in whatever role he plays. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets on this season. I think he's a player that's got a lot of potential. And from what I've seen of him, I think he's a really impressive player and versatile as well. And I think, as I say, he will be finding a way into that West Brom team no matter what position he will be playing for West Brom in that side. Now, Wrexham next up. They have a few Wrexham dudes, let's be real. Lewis O'Brien, I think I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how he gets on. I'm looking at the kind of forward line, but not really too many standing out. I think I'm going to go for Josh Windass, just because we saw how good he was in the Championship last season. He scored 50 goals for Wednesday over his spell. 13 goals last season in the Championship, put up really good numbers. I'll be very intrigued to see how he performs in this Wrexham team this season and see how he performs in that Phil Parkinson side. And as I say, put up really good numbers last season in the Championship. Had a really good spell at one point in the season as well. And we know he's a very good player at Championship level. On a free transfer, loads of Championship clubs wanted him. He ended up going to Wrexham. I think it's a perfect signing for Wrexham. I think it's a good move for Josh Windass. And I think signings like that, Wrexham will be absolutely fine in terms of staying up in the Championship. And I'm personally really looking forward to seeing how Josh Windass does perform in that Wrexham side. So let me know, who are you most looking forward to? Let me know who you support and who are you most looking forward to watching for your team in the Championship next season. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. You may as well subscribe to the channel as well. If you've watched this point, please hit that subscribe button. It's a rule on the channel. If you watch this far, do hit that subscribe button. And I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.